Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great evening and you're ready to get kind of a update. I don't know how long we'll go today, but I figured it's possible I'm not going to have a stream tomorrow. And then going into next week, I'm actually going to be staying at my dad's for most of next week. So I'm probably not going to be streaming a ton over there just because it's kind of goofy streaming at your dad's house. But um, in any case, I do want to talk a little about a couple topics that have been, uh, trending over the past couple weeks over time, and a lot of stuff I go to and I come back and then I'll revisit them, and I think it's important to emphasize that. Yeah, you can overexpose something. If I was doing a lot of videos on Obamacare last year, it was because I thought it was a very key topic. And you'll notice I haven't done as much about Obamacare because the changes that have been enacted, for better or for worse, we're probably going to have to wait until the summer to really know if it's gotten worse or better since the individual mandate is over. I personally think it probably got better, but don't hold me to it. So anyway, a couple of topics today. Of course, there's the gun control you see in the title, and I know there's a lot of people that I speak to on social media, especially Facebook, which is a dying medium. And these people, ironically, they think that their opinion, because they talk to other people on Facebook that believe in gun control, they think that, well, the people I talk to on Facebook, they're defining the conversation on gun control. No, that's that's clearly not the case. If you step outside of your porch, you'll probably get rained on, and that's what's really going on here. Market justice has come to the United States. People now are realizing, thanks to ironically of all things, the premiere of Roseanne last night, which I didn't watch because that show was never exactly one of my favorites. People are realizing that you can overexpose something and then it becomes hated. And there's nothing that more truly expresses that than the issue of gun control and also these marches. So, let me see if there's anybody here yet. Pinochet and Bandsaw, thanks, guys. What's up, my Hebrew brother? Happy Easter, Bandsaw. Is it Easter this weekend? Because I'm not. I see the stuff in the stores. I see a lot of the bunnies here, but I don't hear people talking about it. Of course, there probably were a bunch of Lenten fish fries going on and things like that. By the way, Bandsaw, we have to discuss rescheduling our talk. I know you were supposed to be on. I just had a talk with Simon from the UK this morning on Corbynism. Lisa's here. People oppose the civil and human right of self-defense. Opposed to the civil and human right of self-defense, believe men give us rights to self-defense. I believe God gives us the right to life and defend our lives from leftist pro-genocide advocates. Oh, Sheila sounds like a Nazi. Sounds like a Nazi. That's. I don't think I'm the only person who probably. There's probably people who will seriously say that to her. I just had a stream a couple. I'd say probably 20, 30 minutes ago with some black guy, Derek Blackman, on YouTube. For those of you that know him, he's one of the first YouTubers I really started to follow. And the topic of gun control did come up. Also, for those of you that haven't been watching my videos this week, I am going to discuss the latest stuff that's coming out of New York State. Now, I don't live in New York State, but if you are somebody who lives there, or you know somebody who lives there, maybe you're aware that the state's election is turning for governor is turning into a huge dumpster fire for the Democrats. And whether that will cause a loss in the governor's race, I don't know yet. It's still kind of hard to believe, but they're definitely making it harder than it has to be for them to win. So we're going to start with the gun control issue. And let me just say this: it's been over a month since Parkland shooting, and of course, it's maybe it's not right, but the fact is that the grief over the shooting has to some degree given way to cynicism, and the cynicism is in part due to the fact that people are perceiving this politicization of the issue. They don't want tragedies to be turned into a forced change in their lifestyles. Okay, there was the whole thing with some things kind of make sense when there's a change. I remember when there was the Japan earthquake, and they decide, oh, we're not going to use nuclear power anymore in Japan. Well, that presents a problem because Japan doesn't have any natural oil reserves. They don't really have coal. They don't have a lot of other things. So like it or not, nuclear power was the cheapest, most affordable form of energy for them. Bandsaw says many people use Australia's gun buyback and rise in violence as their argument for the Second Amendment. This is a wrong premise for starters. The gun buyback has nothing to do with the rise in violence. Well, let me say something about gun buybacks. So yeah, the police can buy back your weapon, but ultimately the desire for violence will never abate. And people think, oh, we're going to have a more civil society if there's less arms. That's not the case. The people who were causing an uncivilized atmosphere to pervade in society. Why would a law change any of that? Why would a gun buyback program change any of that? It doesn't give you any more peace of mind to trade in your weapon and get a little money for it. Ultimately, money is money, and you spend it, and then that's it. You get the money and you buy something else, and then something else bothers you. So the gun buyback program in Australia, well, they do gun buybacks over here in the U.S., and they've done a lot of observation that this actually it solves nothing. Many times the criminals will take that money and use it to buy more guns and better guns, and actually a lot of the guns that are turned in have been stolen from legitimate gun owners, and one of the terms of the gun buyback program is that even if the gun is illegal, the police have this commitment that they don't arrest the person who turns it in. So, you could be getting a stolen gun from the criminal who stole it, and they're making money off of it. And what do they use it for? They use it to buy another weapon, or buy another weapon illegally in many cases. Yeah, you guys are kind of like you're rehashing old territory over there in this chat. It's the same stuff everybody hears about. So, Pinochet is talking about it's a firewall against tyrannical government. Fantastic. I mean, okay. And then Bandsaw says it is very easy to buy and own a gun in Australia. I have many. Well, okay, so let's say you're right. I'm just saying the gun buyback programs are ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. The whole issue is, how do you get people to behave in a more civil manner? And I don't think that financial incentives are the way that you do it, or forcing people to give up something that they like. But no, Pinochet, you guys can say whatever you want. I'm just saying that when you're rehashing the whole argument over and over again. This is why I'm saying. So this is what I'm getting to. So you're actually illustrating my point, guys, all of you. So I labeled the chat gun control attrition. And why is it attrition? Because look, we're in March. There's 8 months till November 2018, which I think is one of the most important midterm elections in the U.S. Since I've been alive. Because let's face it, I've never voted in a midterm election, and many times I've wanted never to vote at all. I don't like the parties, and they almost do their best to drive me away from voting. But I'll tell you what, the real issue at hand here is that the gun control advocates have already observed that their propaganda has failed. It's really, it's backfired on them all the way. And this is from CBS News, and I'll try to read some of it. I don't know if you guys like it when I read a whole article. Sometimes I think you guys might get bored just staring at a screen, but it says Saturday's March for Our Lives was billed as a protest against gun violence, but for many Americans on the right, it felt like they were under attack. Many student speakers gave lip service to nonpartisanship. Now is the time to come together, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, but as Americans. Student leader, uh, name redacted, said in his speech. However, it was hard not to notice that some Americans were, to paraphrase George Orwell's Animal Farm, more American than others. For a nonpartisan rally against gun violence, there was an awful lot of messaging about a Republican president and GOP elected officials like Senator Marco Rubio. As student speaker Sarah Chadwick put it, we will no longer be hunted down and treated like prey by politicians who simply don't care about us. So name redacted was even more explicit. The cold grasp of corruption shackles the District of Columbia. To those politicians supported by the NRA that allow the continued slaughter of our children and our future, I say, get your resumes ready. So it says, so, they're asking corruption, slaughter, hunt and prey. This is the sort of language one would expect to hear directed at the Parkland attacker and other gun-wielding criminals. These killers were rarely mentioned. Instead, the vitriol was directed at Republican lawmakers and the people who vote for them, people who put guns ahead of our kids, was the common refrain. Or as one sign read, our blood, your hands. And then there was the NRA. So there were signs there, NRA equals murder, the NRA supports terrorists, and fuck the NRA. I'm not going to redact the curse words. I'll just redact the name of the individual who's getting people banned. Mr. Swine. Okay, Mr. Jonathan Swine, I'll call him. At least one rally featured chants of "Hey, hey, NRA, how many kids did you kill today?" So that's copying off of the old Vietnam War era chant, "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" Because Lyndon Baines Johnson was our president. You get used to it, said Cam Edwards, host of the popular Cam and Company show on NRA TV. This is nothing new, maybe just more ramped up. Edwards makes the point that the NRA is a membership organization, and an attack on it is an attack on the 6 million or so people who choose to send in their $40 a year because they want to protect what they see as a constitutional right. NRA members are some of the best people in this country. First responders, educators, veterans, moms and dads, veteran Edwards says, not people who care more about their guns than their kids, and certainly not domestic terrorists. There's something else Americans who support gun rights are: registered voters. The traditional calculation is that while Americans have many feelings about guns, the only people who actually vote on the issue are gun owners. They're marching today, one Southern GOP consultant said to me on Saturday, but where will they be in November? Democrats hope, with good reason, that this year will be different. According to a new CBS News Nation Tracker poll, Democrats are just as likely as Republicans to say candidates must agree with them on guns in order to get their vote. And here's what he's getting to. Okay, I had to read through a lot of fluff, but it says, but Saturday's rally with its acid rhetoric and progressive overreach may have been the left's first setback of the year. This is CBS News talking. CBS is, for those of you in Australia, we have three or four traditional broadcast networks in the U.S. That's terrestrial TV in the old days, antenna TV. NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox was the last. I think they started in the 80s. And basically, that's called network TV. And then there's cable, of course, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. And then there's some newer ones like One American News and Bloomberg Business, CNBC, and stuff like that. So if CBS News, which is the establishment media, CBS is of all of them, it's the establishment media. CBS and NBC are the two, and ABC came later, and then there was Fox, which is the last. Of broadcast news, it's the oldest. So if they're saying this, traditionally, I mean, it's kind of a real a white flag in a certain sense for part of the country that they're saying this. They have gotten the other side revved up, says Jim Wallace of the Gun Owners Action League, a pro-gun rights group in Massachusetts. The NRA's membership is increasing. Ours is increasing. We're seeing it firsthand. People who would not normally get involved are very concerned about their civil rights. Both Edwards and Wallace pointed out comments from on stage pushing for extreme measures on guns. Comments their fellow gun owners are certain to notice too. For every person who said we want common sense gun reform, you got someone else who said it's time to repeal the Second Amendment, and that's the true part. So many supporters of gun control would dispute this contention. They insist that they don't oppose gun ownership or hold lawful gun owners responsible for the gun crimes. But for many gun owners, Saturday's events were a day-long example of what Jim Wallace calls the social bigotry against gun owners. Dee Dee Edmondson, a member of Massachusetts LGBT community who works with Wallace, agrees. It's easier to come out as a lesbian in Massachusetts than as a gun owner. That, I mean, some of you might have seen a broadcast I did earlier this week with libertarian lesbian, also from the Midwest, like myself, who says very similarly that in some parts of the country it's easier to come out as in her case she's gay than as her political beliefs, which libertarian, a little more conservative leaning libertarian in her case. And this is in Massachusetts, so this is dangerous political territory for Democrats. A new poll just out last week found that 58% of Americans believe gun ownership increases safety by allowing law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. Even among millennials, 4 in 10 still believe protecting gun rights is of chief importance. So that, millennials is a bad target demographic for right-wingers, but they're actually doing above average. And just because it's only 4 in 10 are in favor of gun rights, it's not like it's 6 in 10 against them. There's also undecided people, or people who don't care. And it's not the millennial community, just so everybody understands, they're not at the age yet when they become voters that are very diligent about voting. You usually start to really see people vote consistently at an older age. Like myself, I really I didn't even want to vote until I was probably, I guess 2016. I didn't want to vote in 2012. I was kind of not coerced, but convinced to do it, and I felt like kind of swindled. Excuse me. Hillary coughs. And while support for the NRA has fallen recently, 37% favorable, 40% unfavorable, that's still more than 100 million Americans with a positive view of this child murdering organization, in quotes. If these Americans get the message that Democrats and the left are declaring them public enemy number one, if they feel their culture and values are under assault, that's one way to get a relatively unmotivated GOP base fired up for the midterms. Delaney Tarr, one of the student speakers, said on Saturday, "We will take the big and we will take the small, but we will keep fighting. When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile. We're not here for breadcrumbs. We're here for real change." Gun control advocates should hope America's gun owners didn't get the message. So I think that this article, for once, is hi, Lennon McCarthy. Thanks for stopping by. I know that Hard Bastard is still streaming, in my opinion, to my knowledge, but I did want to do this before the weekend. I have no clue what you guys are talking about over there, but Pinochet seems happy for some reason. In any case, look, Droid Mod says bump stocks could still be 3D printed, though. Excellent point, and I bring it up all the time. It's not just the bump stocks, and it's not just 3D printing. A lot of the gun components can be manufactured very, very easily nowadays. There are people, by the way, who are able to machine those parts, and it's not the hardest thing to do. Bandsaw probably knows what I'm talking about. He does a lot of shop work. From what I can see, the gun control debate is either pro or against. There never seems to be a middle ground at all where common ground can be reached. So the debate will always go round and round. Well, so let me tell you what the issue is. And um, a lot of people, have you been, did you watch any of the footage from the march? So you saw people on the stage. Were they older people or were they younger people? Can I hear from the audience for a second? Just tell me very simply. I'll give you a couple seconds. Were the people on stage older or younger? Just comment in the chat. So you guys seem a little silent now. Cat got your tongue, or should I say, Gator got your hands? So yeah, Bandsaw jumped on it. So yeah, the people in the march, if you saw them on TV, I didn't ask if you went, but if you saw them on TV, the people in the march were for the most part, either in their 20s or younger. Generally younger than their 20s. The kids were all high school students, but there were some celebrities on stage. I think was it Katy Perry who was there appearing, but it was looked like a very youth oriented appearance. But from what I saw from footage of people who went through the crowds, and this is the important difference, people who went through the crowds, they were talking to a lot of people. Yes, there were young people. Yes, there were millennials. Yes, there were people who were high schoolers, but there were a lot of people who happened to be older, possibly even baby boomers, in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. a lot of them were like lawyers. A lot of them drove in from states like Massachusetts and Rhode Island and New Jersey and all that. And those are the states where there's a significant amount of the established liberal coastal people. And those are the people who went to the march. And the idea behind a march is that it hopefully it reflects a group of new blood people who will challenge the convention and show that there is a new movement on the rise that is really changing the atmosphere in the country. Okay, so in the civil rights movement, follow me for a second. The idea was that yes, there were hundreds of thousands of black people who came to Washington D.C. But if you look at the crowd from a lot of those marches, it wasn't only the black people. It was the Quakers. It was the some Catholic clergy. It was a number of far left people, right? There were people who were Baptists, Southern Baptists who were against segregation. There were a lot of Jews. There were a lot of the idea was that it showed that there was a very public objection to Jim Crow laws in the South at the time, and that was what showed that yes, there was a public will to change the way that voting rights and public accommodations, schools and things like that, are treated in the South as opposed to before. So yeah, Lisa is Droid Mod is from Texas, represent for the Dallas Cowboys. If you're from Houston, I'm very sorry, but I am a Cowboys fan, even though I've never been down there. Texas did not have a big march, so yeah, sure. I'm from Ohio. I didn't hear anybody who cared about the actual march. So Lisa said, I think only 10% of the people in the crowds were high school age. Well, and Lennon McCarthy, who's he's not traditionally from the right. He kind of made a little bit of a change in attitude. I'll get to people like you, by the way, too. That there's a lot of people like him who are observing what exactly what he's talking about here. That this crowd of people, there are people who are already set in their mind that gun control is needed and that they don't believe that an armed society is necessary and things like that. There are people who don't trust the public to have firearms. There are people who look at their neighbors askance and say, yeah, I don't think that Craig over at the machine shop should be armed. I think somebody like that it could be dangerous. Somebody they see their mechanic wearing let's say a Marine Corps. They have a Marine Corps tattoo or something, and they know that he happens to be a gun owner because he might have mentioned it. They look at that person, as some sort of social pariah, because they would never be accepted in their circles. I'm talking about people who are comfortable, the liberal elite, the people who voted for Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for president. I mean, it's the social type, and I'm not saying it to be judgmental at the moment, even though we can. But Droid Mod says he's a Texans fan. Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? Cowboys fans, get out of the shower to pee. I can show you exculpating evidence of that, Pinochet, later. so anyway, that's Pinochet's go-to insult. Get out of the shower to pee. But in any case, look, moving on. If you look at the actual people who were at the march, and I watched Tim Pool, he went and talked to like kind of a fair sample, I'd say. Those people, first of all, they looked very, very judgmental of the gun owner, and were not knowledgeable about weapons laws as they are, not knowledgeable about the weapons themselves. This is something that's been observed for a while. A lot of the gun control people, and I'm kind of retreading old ground, plowing fields that have already been plowed, but a lot of the people who are pro gun control do not have any technical knowledge of guns. Not that I'm saying that I do. I have some technical knowledge of guns, and I wouldn't say that I'm very knowledgeable, but these people have no technical knowledge. And we're talking, even there was a video of veterans that are against ownership of assault weapons, like Droid Mod said. And these veterans themselves were saying there's no reason. I had an M16 rifle in my service, and I had an M4 rifle in my service. There's no reason. It kept repeating that somebody should have that weapon if they're not in the army or the police. Well, everybody who has taken 2 seconds to read understands that there is a functional difference between the M16 rifle, which was my service rifle, and the Israeli army. And if any of you haters are out there, I mean, you can jump on me for that too, but instant drop. Somebody just dropped out. Maybe not. But in any case, look, the M16s, I had an M16 rifle. The AR-15 has a crucial difference, which means it cannot be fired on automatic. So there's no repeater mechanism. It's very simple, very, very simple. But they just want to ignore that distinction and act because to appearances, yes, the M16 and the AR-15 are very, very, very similar. But it's not the same weapon. So they're presenting they're present. King Kush is here. Thanks for joining. And Blackstone Intelligence. What are you guys talking about? Topic for the future of the fact that there is no talk in the MSM about the bullshit warmongering happening with Russia at the moment, and little talk on alt media. This is a huge worry. Well, I mean, I've heard some stuff about Russia too, about expelling the diplomats and everything like that. I don't think the media can change that. I think that they're all in favor of it too, but it's almost like we're being compelled to go along with this nonsense that we should get into a war with Russia. Can anybody say in the chat, please, what you'd like to find in Russia? If we were to take over Russia, if we were to win a war with Russia, what would you get out of it? I don't know. I'd get some of those Matryoshka dolls. I'd probably get some more Smirnoff, even though I'm more of a Scotch drinker. You know what? It's the most ridiculous thing in the world that yes, I get it. Russia does bad things. I don't want a war with them. It's as simple as that. Um, can you explain why the Cowboys are not in the NFC South? It's almost as nonsensical as Notre Dame not belonging anywhere. Well, the reason that they're not in the NFC South is because in the original, before the merger of the, I don't know why I took the bait, but I do love talking NFL as much as I can, even given the crap that's going on today. But originally, before the NFL and AFL merged in 1967, there was a rivalry between Dallas and Washington, and I guess the Giants as well in the NFL East division, Eastern Conference, I think. And then when they merged, they didn't want to lose the fans, so they kept the Cowboys in the East. But you know, if you think that's crazy, guys, if you think that's crazy, when I was a kid, Arizona was also in the East, and Arizona is practically by the Pacific already. So you had in the Eastern division, in the East division of the NFC, you had Dallas, New York, Philly, Washington, and Arizona. So two teams that are already in the Western time zones or Mountain time zones, and then you have, I mean, what the hell? Larry Gerke is here. Welcome. Haven't heard from you. Well, I think I did hear from you earlier this week. So welcome back. Maybe we have some scheduling conflicts, but I'm glad to see you. But back to the gun control issue. So I'm talking about attrition here. So gun control supporters are logging on to Facebook, and you know, all the stuff about Mr. Name Redacted, Jonathan Swine, the head of the figurehead of all these rallies, the survivor. There's questions about his story, and questions about his honesty, and questions about his character. You know, openly trolling other people, and then when you react to him, he cries and tells Twitter that he's bullying, and now he's up against he's attacking Laura Ingraham of all people. Full and Pink is here. Thank you for joining again from the great Kiwi Kingdom over in New Zealand. I don't know if they actually call it that, but look, there's an issue with what are we going to do with these people that they're flooding the social media with all this stuff about March for Our Lives or everything. Well, you know what people do? They make memes and they make fun of them, and then when people try to block those memes, when people see you, Lisa. Hope you tune in later. And by the way, guys, this might be my last stream until a week or so from now. For those of you that joined later. In any case, yeah. So it's become attrition. It's become they just won't shut up. So then they cause a backlash on all of the social media, both Twitter and Facebook, traditional social media, and YouTube, which we're doing right now. And it's a horrible situation for the Democrats because they're also going through this reaction to the Facebook scandal. So they're scrutinizing Mark Zuckerberg now for all of his shady shit with data mining and going with Cambridge Analytica as if that's the real story. Cambridge Analytica, yeah, there's probably a little something dirty there, but the big dirty is Facebook, and they're suffering for it, and therefore, if they continue to censor people on their platform, they're basically taking it in both holes. They're getting DP'd like big. They're getting DP'd on the one hand by right wingers because that they're creating a lot of anger on social media because there's certain people who say, well, this meme offends me, we must ban these people. It's not going to be a civil platform. And then they go to companies and they say, well, if you don't pressure Facebook to ban these people, we're going to stop buying your stuff. So those are the boycott people. They'll boycott anything. Then on the other hand, the people on the left, in any case, they're pissed off and they're trying to get these hearings against Facebook and now, testimony and lawsuits against them. So in a certain sense, there's a reaction from the left that's triggered by the right. That's all of our meme making and trolling on Facebook and Twitter. And then what the hell are you talking about? Gravity defying. Oh, it's sitting on something. It's sitting pretty here. What do you mean, like that? Did that fix that for you? Are you feeling better, buddy? Uh I don't know who King Kush is talking about. Oh, the pink guy. Yeah, I did see that. So Len McCarthy says Facebook is doing a Cleveland steamer. Droid Mod says Russians are good people. Yeah, I think I believe I kind of agree with you. I actually like hanging out with Russians. They're actually pretty fun to talk to. A lot of people that are called your enemy, that's the Orwellian thing, that people are told, well, those people are your enemy, the East Asians. Then next week is the Eurasians or whatever. The people aren't necessarily your enemy. Sometimes there's a lot of people committed to an ideology from a place that could be your enemy. But yeah, I think Russians are great people. I also like Egyptians. I also like people from India. There's a lot of cool people from India. People from the Netherlands. I'm trying to think of places where I don't like people, but I mean, maybe France. I don't know. So this attrition with the gun control debate is really killing the Democrats, because they're not winning anybody from the swing voter base. A lot of people from the swing voter base, including Bernie Sanders supporters. And Len McCarthy long ago said that he is not really a Bernie bro anymore. He's kind of moved over to Trump. But there's a lot of people who are undergoing the similar process that he sort of described, where they're saying, well, I watched this rally and it looks very corporate. It looks very well set up. I don't trust the FBI already. I don't trust the federal government. So these are people who, in some cases, they've retained some of their progressive values, or they've retained some of their belief in a more cooperative society, or they have kind of a liberal mindset socially. They believe in gay marriage, or they believe in pro-choice and stuff like that. But notwithstanding that, they think that they're being manipulated by the parties themselves, and therefore they're not being convinced by this gun control argument. The gun control argument is actually pushing them either to not vote, possibly vote for the GOP, possibly become a gun owner, because they're looking at it as some sort of cheap advertisement that's being pitched to them to support a product that they don't like, or a product that they're very skeptical of. Pinochet, the voices are coming back. Thanks, butthole. This Facebook thing will be used as a tool against Trump, ban and implicated. Well, I mean, let them use it, but Facebook itself is look. I still have to use Facebook because I have more contacts on Facebook than any other place, and I find a lot of good interviewing subjects from Facebook. But there's no doubt in my mind that it's dying. There used to be a lot more activity on it. Now it's drying up. It's a heaven and earth difference now. Trump is a tool, in my opinion. Facebook is probably 200% in the bag for Hillary and the Democrats, though. Floyd and Pink said that juxtaposition between Bold's top shelf and other shelves, though. Larry says, also one thing to keep in mind, these Russians are not the Iraqis at all. We have used as punching bags and come out with egg on our face. Sorry. Well, look, I don't think that the intent is. I mean, it could be. Sure, let's go the whole. We can't say the whole expression now because it's name redacted, but we can't go the whole swine and say that we're being told that we want to go to the war with Russia. But maybe we can. But I think everyone here will agree that we're being told that we're being told that Russia is the enemy, and that we're going to have to really ramp up all the tension with Russia and show them that we're not pussies anymore or whatever, and that they have to stop their bullshit. We have to get tough with Russia. That's the big sentiment now. That's what they're doing. They don't necessarily. Yeah, Lenin. I remember when they said that. Yeah, I think we're not necessarily being told that we're going to have to go to war with Russia, but we're being told that Russia is the enemy and we have to focus on it now, and that's why we have to spend all this money on the military, and that's why we have to spend all this money on I think it was like $300 million to improve election cybersecurity. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So yeah, I think that is the issue with Russia, and you know, Bandsaw, I think you know what I'm talking about. People think that Trump isn't controlled by higher powers. Open your eyes, he is controlled like the rest. Well, I mean, good, okay, that's your opinion. Trump threatened Putin to an arms race. What a tool. Well, first of all, okay, so let's say you're right and he's controlled by a higher power. What could also be true, whether you like it or not, he could have an interest in it too. Does Syria want Israel in Golan disputed land? Who's helping Syria? I'm not sure where you're going with that one. but yeah, we are going through this period that where, at least for the foreseeable future, we're being coached by the media to believe that Russia is the enemy, and I think eventually it's going to wear thin. And you know, he's being boxed in by Congress. Remember, Congress is also voting for measures that are they're holding Trump to this standard. I don't know how it is in Australia, but here, if, for example, Congress can pass resolutions and pass sanctions, which they have done already, forcing Trump to Trump's hand. If he vetoes the sanctions, then he gets all this pressure. He says, well, I thought you said you're going to get tough on Russia. So yes, I think he's being controlled from the bottom as well. Controlled from the bottom being Congress. Congress is the worst of all the branches of government at the moment. They're worse than the Supreme Court. But yeah, I talked a little about Russia. I mean, are you happy? Russia does want Israel in Golan disputing hand. I still don't know what you mean. Yeah, they're allies of Syria. So what? So, I mean, they've always been allies of Syria. I don't care. I was in the Israeli army. You think I'm happy about it? But it's been a fact. China is more of a threat than Russia. I think it is more of a threat than Russia. I mean, you've been listening to my stuff. I've been talking about how Bill Clinton was the best American president in the history of China. That's what I've said before. That the real collusion with China is in '96. Floyd and Pink has seen that. You can go back, look at any of my series on my channel. There's 3 parts. Real collusion is what it's called. Where you and I keep the book right here all the time. All the time, everybody can see it. Order this book if you don't have it. Year of the Rat by Edward Timberlake. So that's all I can say. That, you know, this gun control issue is going to become a real albatross around the necks of the Democrats going forward, because in reality, yes, they can have a huge march, but they've had huge marches already that have produced virtually nothing. And this march was actually, it's been revealed that the crowd size for the, I think, let me see if they're, let me just make sure before I say something. So yeah, according to this, only 10% of them were teenagers, and then there was people are questioning the crowd size of last week's March for Our Lives, but we don't like to guess at those numbers. This is so now like there's NBC News in Denver. They're saying, oh, we don't like to guess numbers. And originally the size was estimated at 800,000. And this is CBS News again. They're saying only 200,000 people. Now at the Women's March, I think one of the Women's March events had 500,000. So and by the way, those of you that haven't seen it yet, so if you haven't seen it yet, you should go see the latest Farrakhan feminism video from yesterday. And then you know what I'm talking about, that these events are basically for the people who organized the Women's March and Black Lives Matter and all those other ones. It's the latest. You know how Subway has their foot-long Friday, you know, or their seafood special or whatever. It's the latest special. It's the blue plate special. I want the blue plate special. So that this one, the March for Our Lives, we're marching for gun control. Then I still don't know why it censors your comments, by the way. I mean, I put it on live chat. It still censors it. Nothing I can do about that. So look, the March for Our Lives is the latest one. So originally it was Black Lives. No, the original one that they were using was Occupy Wall Street. and you know where that went? Wall Street bought them out. They got a buyout. They got a nice IPO out of that. So Occupy Wall Street dried up, and then it was the next one. It was Black Lives Matter, and then you had what was another cause that they made up? And you know, yeah, people may believe in the Black Lives Matter cause. It doesn't mean that the movement itself was real. The movement was a complete and total fraud. Occupied Wall Street also, it had originally grassroots supporters. Then it got bought out. And then Bandsaw Bandit, yeah, there's a lot of people who got banned for talking about the redacted one, Mr. Jonathan Swine, as I call him. In any case, yeah. So the Women's March, Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory. In the last episode of Farrakhan Feminism, I expose an angle of why they're not renouncing Louis Farrakhan, and the reason is, pay attention to this, okay? Because I don't think I've made a live stream about it yet. In 2015, when Black Lives Matter was going strong, Linda Sarsour was one of the primary organizers of Black Lives Matter in Brooklyn and the rest of New York, and she was getting meetings with the mayor of New York. And you know, there were still tensions with the police. So some of the actual black people involved in Black Lives Matter were grumbling about why this woman was getting these meetings and publicity and whatever when she's not really black, and they thought she was exploiting the cause. And she started, you know, bitching back and saying, well, I got the meeting with the mayor. What did you do? I did this. What did you do? You know, getting very egotistical about it. What happened? What happened later? Once you know, there was the Trump became president and whatever. Well, you don't see her associating very much with the Black Lives Matter movement anymore, because it went out of style. Next, it was the resist. Next, it was the Women's March. Hashtag the Me Too. The Time's Up movement. That's what she started. She's pimping a movement every so often. So now it's March for Our Lives, and then next month it's going to be you know, March for a Hot Plate or something. And you know, it really is. It's the commercialization of protest. You know, there were people who used to do things. You know, a lot of these Quakers during the Vietnam War, they well, you got your wish, Pinochet. There were a lot of people during the Vietnam War, like these Quakers, who used to like and nuns that used to take like a pair of handcuffs and handcuff themselves to a nuke or something, or to a nuclear power plant. They were like, yes, we're going to stop the war. Did they stop the war? No, but they actually they were involved in I mean real political protest, doing federal crimes and whatever. Um, but in any case, this new type of protest is the cheapest type. It is much cheaper than it was in the 60s and 70s. In the 60s and 70s, I mean, you could legitimately say that the police were not used to dealing with peaceful protesters in a civil manner. It was as if civil protest was not um, it was not considered kind of part of polite society, and the police looked at it as really an abuse, something that would undermine their authority, as a wise man would say. So yeah, that was a real issue with the latest round of protests, that people see that it's corporatized. They see, I mean, back in the day, yes, there were some concerts for these protests. There was, or not even for protests, for their causes. There was George Harrison's concert for Bangladesh in 1971. But there were things like this, but they weren't corporatized artists. They weren't, Madonna. I think it was last year or the year before that at the Women's March. It really is a joke, and people have gotten tired of it, and that's what I'm talking about with attrition. Nobody cares anymore. See you later, Bandsaw Bandit. Have a good night. Vero Keeler is here, so thanks for tuning in. King Kush is still here. So then there's other issues that are causing attrition in the march, and I talked about this a bit on some Black Guy stream like an hour and a half ago, where BBC is saying never again is gun control movement too white, and in 2016 more than 52% of murder victims, 73% were killed by guns in America were black. The fact is that a lot of them are by other black people, but that's not the point. Protesters are being accused of hypocrisy, as some ask why didn't they turn out for the Black Lives Matter movement, which was set up in 2013 to end police violence against black people and highlight the impact of gun violence in ethnic minority communities. So then you have, so glad to see all these black and brown kids given an opportunity to speak up too. Much respect to the Parkland students for using their privilege to give others space to speak and get out some and get some spotlight. Hope Black Lives Matter, March for Our Lives, Vote Them Out 2018. So you get people fighting each other, and then the white men with guns are America's biggest terrorist sign. So I don't know why BBC is so butthurt over this, but I think it truly is an indication that this movement is not really. It's a corporate movement. There's nothing that's really driving it besides the desires of corporate America to see people in the streets hashtagging whatever they want to hashtag. And by the way, I think there were corporate sponsors for the event. Somebody paid for all that audio equipment and the stage. So it was obviously not a grassroots movement. Let's see what else we have here. Just wanted you to know there is this article from Hudson Valley One in the chat. Massive non-compliance with the SAFE Act, which is, by the way, one of the most retarded acts in the country, which was passed in response to Sandy Hook. The SAFE Act defines assault weapons as any rifle, pistol, or shotgun that uses a detachable magazine and has one of a laundry list of military features, including flash suppressors, folding stocks, bayonet lugs, and heat shields. The law banned new sales of assault weapons in the state and required current owners to register the firearms with state police. In 2014, attorney and policy analyst Paloma Campana, it's a funny name. Paloma means pigeon in Spanish. filed suit on behalf of Rochester-based radio host Bill Robinson, seeking data on New York's Safe Act compliance, specifically how many assault weapons had actually been registered in the state. Cuomo administration officials first ignored, then denied Robinson's Freedom of Information Act request. But on June 22nd, following 2 years of litigation, state police released the information based on a court decision which found that while the law forbade the disclosure of the actual registration forms, nothing precluded the release of the aggregate data. The data shows massive non-compliance with the assault weapon registration requirement. Based on an estimate from the National Shooting Sports Federation, about 1 million firearms in New York State meet the law's assault weapon criteria, but just 44,000 have been registered. That's that's a compliance rate of about 4%, 4.4% if they really wanted to be precise. Capana said that the high rate of non-compliance with the law could only be interpreted as a large-scale civil disobedience given the high level of interest and concern about the law on the part of gun owners. It's not that they aren't aware of the law, said Capana. The lack of registration is a massive act of civil disobedience by gun owners statewide. Opposition to the Safe Act has been widespread across upstate New York, where 52 of the state's 62 counties, including Ulster, have passed resolution. So Ulster, I think they mentioned it because it is in the Hudson Valley. Passed resolutions opposing the law. Upstate police agencies have also demonstrated a marked lack of enthusiasm for enforcing the ban on assault weapons in large capacity magazines. According to statistics compiled by the State Department of Criminal Justice Services, there have been just 11 arrests for failure to register an otherwise legal assault weapon since the SAFE Act took effect in March 2013, and 62 for possession of a large capacity magazine. In Ulster County, where 463 assault weapons have been registered, there have been just 3 arrests for possession of large capacity magazines and none for failure to register an assault weapon. Ulster County Sheriff Paul Van Blarcom, that's a funny name, Van Blarcom, has been a vocal critic of the law. He said he believed large numbers of Ulster County gun owners had chosen to ignore the registration requirement. So, you know, this is what I get at. Okay, I understand if people think that you know that there should be laws in a society. That's fine. I think that there should be. You know, there's certainly laws that are here to govern behavior and minimize violence, and in some cases address fairness and things like that. I think that there shouldn't be too many of them, but there have to be some. But with every law, and I don't see why anybody would object to this statement. With every law, the effectiveness on the law is, you know, it requires hold on. Somebody keeps pinging me. Anyway, listen, so the effectiveness of any law is contingent about the willingness of law enforcement to enforce the law, the willingness of society to put people, to hold people accountable for violating that law and to give them consequences for it. And those of you that think that gun control legislation is for public, damn it, what the fuck? Stop pinging me. In any case, she's gonna fucking ping me now too. I lost my fucking train of thought. Damn it. Facebook is such a, why do I even have it open now? Anyways, look, so if you're out there and you have a certain issue that you think that the law needs to deal with, and you see a lot of people violating that law that you think should be enforced, or if you want a law passed that should address that issue, you have to prepare yourself for the possibility that either A, law enforcement will not be willing to arrest those people, and then therefore B, the state attorneys, the prosecutors will not be willing to prosecute those cases because everybody has the right to due process in this country. Technically, right? I think we do, but then so they have to be willing to arrest, they have to be willing to prosecute, and the judge has to be willing to sentence, and the legal system has to be willing to incarcerate people for that crime. Fuck it. She's just pinging me. What the fuck? In any case, so everybody knows that, and if you're sitting there and you're saying, "Oh, those people smoking weed by the corner. There's too many people smoking weed by the gas station, ready to get high by the gas station." What the fuck? They should be arrested and everything. So if you're willing to see your neighbors and people in your vicinity thrown into prison for that, then you better be ready for the consequences of people coming out of those prisons and having that on the record and not being able to find employment because of that. And therefore, the drug war, a lot of mistakes there. I don't think people can pretend anymore that the drug war was this gallant crusade against hedonism and rum Romanism and ruin. So that's what they said about the prohibition movement. We're going to fight rum Romanism and it was something else. It was the 3 R's: rum Romanism and I don't even remember Romanism, because a lot of these prohibition people hated Catholics. So just let's keep in mind that when you pass a law and people violate it, there's a question of who's going to hold them accountable. Are you going to hold them accountable? Some woman, some housewife wagging her finger at the people smoking weed by the corner. You probably don't have the ability to. Now, there are people who get elected to county prosecutor positions who are exactly that type of person. They're like, lock up all those damn stoners who are smoking weed by the gas station and fucking in their vans. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean this town up of all those damn hippies or whatever. Do they ever end up doing that? Not really. Well, they put people in prison, but things don't get better. It doesn't move the economy to do that. See what else is going on. Paloma Blanca. Nice. Good. You guys seem to be getting along. Hope you're making friends, civil society and all that shit. So, and let's segue into the next issue with New York State, the last issue, because we do have to adjourn for the evening. I know some of you have, plants you have to water and, kilos to pack away. So, New York State, I don't live there. I hope you guys don't, but it's a good case to observe. I know a couple of you might be in California and Oregon as well, so maybe you can relate to some of what's going on. But what's happening is this restaurant owner, I think his name was Harendra Singh. He raised tens of thousands of dollars for the mayor and laid out the latest pay-to-play details Tuesday in the corruption trial of a Long Island politician. He also gave four fundraisers free of charge to the de Blasio campaign. Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York ran for re-election last year and won, even though he's one of the most hated mayors in the history of the United States, certainly of New York City. But he won because New York is the people in New York are such pussies, such losers, that even though they have a shitty mayor, nobody was willing to actually support somebody who would come and run against him. And I don't care what party it was. He's turned that city into a shithole. I wrote an article this week. It's in the description from the Hard News Network. Lennon McCarthy, you can vouch for the Hard News Network. I wrote an article for them where I kind of get through some of the shit that they talk about with, Cuomo said something funny where he said Catholics can't dance, and Catholics don't have rhythm, and neither do Jews, or Jews have even worse rhythm than Catholics. And people thought, oh, that's a funny story or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of funny. In the same story, that they talked about how NYCHA, the New York City Housing Authority, is basically falling apart. People are resigning left and right. They lied under oath about lead paint inspections that never happened. And the place is a mess, and there's all this corruption going on there. $6.5 million of corruption uncovered just last year. Probably a lot more that people don't know about. 400,000 people living officially on NYCHA, a total of 600,000 people living there, which is larger than the population of Boston. I talked a little about it on Anthony Brian Logan yesterday. So what do you think they focused on? Cuomo's dumb Jew joke that it was kind of funny just to hear about Cuomo saying it, but ultimately, no, we're talking about a city falling apart. We're talking about a city that's basically turning into a mockery of the entire country. And now, Governor Cuomo is attacking De Blasio about corruption because of things like this, Harendra Singh and everything like that. But keep in mind, one of Cuomo's top aides, I think his name was Percoco. His last name was Percoco. Everybody has like one of these vowel-ended names now. One of those cute vowel names that like they're part of one of the they're like a Lucchese family, a capo or something. So in any case, one of his aides was just convicted of some crazy corruption. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah, here we go. Lower Hudson. Okay, so this is also from upstate New York. I'm gonna have to mute this, but yeah, there's Joseph Percoco, Andrew Cuomo's aide. No, I don't want a subscription. He's guilty of 3 felonies in a bribery case. So we have the pot calling the kettle black, or the pot. You have one Italian, Mr. Cuomo, calling a fake Italian, Mr. de Blasio, Afro-American, as the postmodernists would call the pot and kettle analogy nowadays. You have 2 people, very fake people. Silver Spoon Governor Andrew Cuomo, whose dad was governor for like, I don't know, 8 years, 12 years, I don't even remember. I was probably like a little kid back then. And he's pretending, oh, I'm a progressive governor. I'm giving free college and whatever to all the residents. But the state's a shithole. They're basically, and by the way, he's at the behest right now. He's under the thumb of a legislature that the Senate is ruled by the Republicans and some renegade Democrats who are called the Independent Democrats, and the House is controlled by radical Democrats, and you have Chuck Schumer also in the state. New York State is a disaster, and Cuomo is running for his 3rd term. He's hated around the state, and he'll still probably win at this point. But why is this all coming to fore? Well, De Blasio, who's the mayor, again, the most hated mayor in the world, is fighting the most hated governor in the world for who's the biggest dick. And what they did was De Blasio backed Cynthia Nixon, the Sex and the City star, who later declared that she's gay and married a woman. He said to her, or maybe she made the decision on her own, but she's running for governor now as the real progressive, even though all of them endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016. So you guys still with me? Cuomo had his lesbian Christine Quinn insult De Blasio's lesbian Cynthia Nixon and call her an unqualified lesbian. Why? Because, and I know I'm just using this whole thing because it keeps your attention. The lesbian thing, even though there's nothing, it's not important. What's more important, these fighting lesbians or 600,000 public housing residents living in lead apartments that don't get any heat. But I'm still holding your attention, right? My viewership's gone up during the segment because I'm talking about Cuomo and his lesbians. So the reason that Chris Quinn hates Cynthia Nixon was because in 2013, when Bill de Blasio was running for mayor, she supported de Blasio, and de Blasio is married to what? A black woman who used to be a lesbian. So it's all circular. You could say that it's kind of it's a real these people are just bumping donuts the whole time. I mean that's what's going on here. It's a charade. New York State politics is a charade. These are all Democrats. They're running the state into the ground. Their public housing projects, the real dream of a cooperative society that they wanted, is going to the shitter, and they're arguing over which lesbian is more qualified. Let's hear some comments. Sound is kind of sketchy. Sorry about that. I don't know what to do. Is it better now? Ricky Schroeder. I don't know. Huh? Ro Keeler. Okay. Roman. Okay, here we go. Larry Gerke, right on, Ro Keeler. On the other hand, it's a good way to get some folks who can use it who otherwise would not. Okay. Ro Keeler, 3.3 million deaths by alcohol per year worldwide. Mary Jane deaths worldwide, 0. I mean, I think that there are risks to having people smoke too much marijuana, but I don't think that it's worth putting people in prison for at the rate that they do. There's nothing. I'm not a big pro drug use person, but I'm not for putting people in prison for things that, if we made it legal, it probably wouldn't be just. I mean, it could be more popular, it could be less popular. Part of the reason people use marijuana is because it's taboo. I forgot. I've been smoking some stuff called Gorilla Glue and forgot my birthday last week. Lennon McCarthy says happy birthday. Everybody say happy birthday to Pinochet. Floyd and Peak said, okay, it's just glue now. The glue company went after them. Vero Keeler says, I went to Catholic school as a kid, and I can say with certainty that the nuns are mean old bitches without love or compassion. My biggest memory for second grade is having my palms ruler smacked by nuns. Yeah, everybody I know from Catholic school says that. Everybody. And I know a lot of Catholics here. J-Man Truth Seeker is here. So what's going on, dude? What's with the alien stuff? I don't know. He keeps using the alien ones. Oh, Ricky Schroeder died. Is that the kid from Silver Spoons? Oh, because I said Andrew Cuomo has a silver spoon. Yeah, well, what are you going to do? His dad was governor, and he's governor now. It's the same as Jerry Brown, the governor of California. His dad was governor. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Pretend that it's not true? Gerke says my lesbo is hotter than your lesbo. I mean, only one way to find out. Yeah. King Kosh says Israel is leading cannabis research. I don't know. I mean, I heard, I don't even know much about. I think that when I lived there, by the way, there was a party that was running for parliament, for the Knesset, which is their parliament, called the Green Leaf Party. They wanted to legalize marijuana. They would always get on the cusp of getting into the Knesset, and then there were always a few too many people who forgot to go out and vote for some mysterious reason. The Goyim knows you got patents. Yeah. I'm just sitting on patents. They're all in my bookshelf, buddy. Mary Jane is God's green herb. Drugs are like coke, crack, crank, smack, ice, Xanax, etc., etc. So that's it. Look, I like the energy tonight. I like you guys. You know, in the coming week, I'm not going to be as active. I'll be more active on blogging. But, you know, please share the Farrakhan feminism stuff. Share it wherever you are. If you're not on social media, the new social media is not, you know, I still keep the Facebook links and everything, but, you know, eventually we might move off of Facebook entirely. YouTube, we'll see if there's ever going to be consequences against this channel. I don't think that people are paying attention to it yet, because I watch my back in terms of things that you're not supposed to be doing. I use a lot of euphemisms, but subscribe to my other channels on BitChute or Steemit or Minds.com, and spread these videos, especially the Farrakhan feminism stuff. Linda Sarsour is a fraud. She needs the black Muslims in order to keep her traction within the black community. If she renounced Farrakhan, people would know that she really doesn't have any support within the black community. You know, this isn't an issue of you know, Arabs or whatever. It's just about being able to keep some sort of, it's politics. It's pure voter politics. So that's it. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Floyd. Thank you, Pinochet, Kush, Lennon McCarthy, of course, J-Man, Truth Seekers, Verl, Larry Gerke, of course, and Lisa was here earlier. And then there was, did I say King Kush? You were here too. Droid Mod, new guy. I think Droid Mod is a very new subscriber. I don't think I've seen him before. And Swede wasn't here tonight, but I did speak to him earlier I think I spoke to him through chat. So that's it. Have a good night, and we'll talk later. Happy Passover. Happy Easter for you Catholics and, you know, other people who celebrate Easter. And we'll talk later.